Look at this. Isn't this just beautiful? This is the view off of my back porch. And I just think this is paradise, this nice urban cityscape. And this is my face. Greetings. I am silphhunter, and I'm TogetherWeR Friday. I am so thankful to be part of the team, and I'm going to start by answering the question and sharing my story. It is a long story, with a lot of sub-stories interwoven into it. The story of my ED kind of necessarily has to include the story of my substance abuse, the story of my dance training, the story of my gender and sexuality, the story of my physical health. But I'm just going to give a basic overview, and hopefully I can talk more in later videos about each of these facets. I have never eaten normally. My father, when I was growing up, was extremely controlling, and he was always on a diet. He lived on the Atkins diet. And the way that he taught me and my brother how to eat was completely wrong. He taught us to only eat once a day. He taught us that like a quarter, like 4 ounces of a smoothie is a meal. He taught us to have just this fear of high fat foods, of fat in general, of fast food, of sugary breakfast cereals, and you're supposed to have a distaste for those things because they're not necessarily good for you, they're not necessarily healthy, but like to just fear them and carry this thing into adulthood of, I can't eat starch or, something like that, or I can't eat fat, is not really a thing you necessarily want to do to your child. In addition, he wouldn't let the rest of the family eat unless it was a family meal and unless he was there and we were all sitting down together, and he worked late a lot. So, we would starve all day, the whole family, and then he would just not come home from work until midnight when, the kids, me and my brother, were already asleep, and my mom would feed us. She would be like, okay, this is ridiculous, you need to have something for dinner. But she would wait. She would wait until he got home, and then a lot of the time she would fall asleep without eating the entire day. So that was kind of my upbringing as far as learning how to eat. I never really learned how to eat correctly. So from a very, very early age, I saw life as this game, the point of which, the object of which, was to find and hide and consume as much food as possible without anybody finding out, without getting caught. So I have always had this abnormal relationship with food, and I would have been diagnosable with binge eating disorder pretty much, from the time I could talk, basically. So I, in my junior year of high school, I got really sick. And I was sick for the entire year, and I still am today. This was my first major flare-up of a chronic disease that I didn't know I had until then. And it was, nobody knew what was going on with me. And I basically slept the entire year. And, school just sucked because I was sleeping 17 hours out of every 24. And who can do homework or, even stay in school the entire day when you're doing that? and my brain just turned to mush. It couldn't do anything. So pretty much the only thing I could still do, one of the only things I could still do that resembled mathematics, math is the love of my life. You know, I'm a mathematician now, that's my career. One of the only things that I could still do that even resembled mathematics in the least, was just arithmetic, just playing with numbers. So that was the time that I started counting calories. And I would just start counting calories because it was something simple enough that I could still do it when there wasn't much I could still do. And I would play with them. I would, add them up for the week and do a weekly average and do like the difference between the weekly average and the weekly goal and do the difference between the weekly total and the weekly goal and then over time the weekly goal got smaller and smaller. And so I, for the first time in my life, I wasn't binging as much. I was switching to a restrictive eating. And that really intensified when my boyfriend broke up with me because we were talking and he was saying how, his feelings for me had gone flat and he wanted to move on. And I said, who will make me eat? And he took my forearm. Right, he took my forearm and he pinched my forearm. And he said, I think you'll be fine. That was in May. I came back to school the next fall a lot skinnier because I needed to prove to him that, yes, you should worry about me. I can do this. You don't think I can do this? Well, I take that as a challenge. Now, of course, my willpower ran out. I did get pretty scary skinny, but my willpower ran out. It was not sustainable. And I recovered. I actually recovered. For my first year, I'm skipping a part, of course. My senior year of high school. For most of my senior year, I started out the year restricting, and then I started being bulimic. But my first year of college, I was actually fully recovered for a year. I was not only not restricting or purging, I was having no issues with food. None. I wasn't binging either. That was the only year of my life that I've ever had a normal relationship with food. But then I met somebody, and I decided that he was too good to be true, and I decided to make absolutely certain that he wouldn't leave me. So I decided to start dieting again, and this time, my body was like, oh God, not again. You are not doing this to us again. So instead of being able to restrict at all, I started binging, and becoming primarily a type 2 bulimic, binging my face off for a day and then fasting for 2 or 3 days, or binging my face off and then exercising for about 5 hours. And that's kind of been the pattern I've been ever since. And then there are two kind of tie-ins to this that have come up more recently. The first one is, shortly after I turned 21, this was my first experience with drinking. I didn't drink any alcohol until I turned 21, but I was sitting down to dinner, and it was a plate of pasta, which is a huge trigger food, probably the ultimate trigger food for me. It's pasta. I was sitting down to a big plate of pasta, and I had a beer, and I realized that drinking the beer made me lose interest in the pasta. And it was a really weird experience because, I had this huge trigger food, this pasta, in front of me. I had a plate of unfinished pasta in front of me, and I just couldn't care less. I just didn't want it. I didn't acknowledge it. It wasn't, calling to me anymore. So I was like, oh my goodness, if I drink, I don't feel like I have to eat. This is amazing. You know, I can cure my eating disorder with alcoholism. So my eating disorder is an addiction. That's the way I view it, as an addiction to food. And so when I have the compulsion to binge, I found out essentially that my body doesn't make a distinction between binge eating and binge drinking. Either one of those activities will satisfy the compulsion to binge. So, and the other quick tie-in that's come up recently is that I've always known that I'm not a woman, but I've kind of kept it in the back of my mind, and kind of thought that if I don't think about it, don't acknowledge it, then it won't be a problem. Then I can just live, you know, the easy way, and just it won't come up. But it's gotten unsustainable, and so I had to eventually come out of the closet as queer, both genderqueer and in sexuality. And I don't really know yet what my labels are aside from just, you know, the blanket term of queer. But I know that a huge motivation for me is, you know, I hate my body because it's a feminine body. I hate being female. I don't want to be female. I want to be male. I want to starve my boobs off. I want to starve my posterior off. I want to make my face look masculine. So that's another kind of motivator for me. I'm in treatment now, and it's kind of working, but I know I need a higher level of treatment. But I'm kind of battling with insurance because I'm not sick enough to get a higher level of treatment. So that's my story, or at least a sharply abbreviated version of it. So thanks for listening, and I will see you all next week.